Hello indie game fans, pixel art is my favorite art style since there's a timeless quality to it and can be used in so many ways, from chill, relaxing games to horror titles and everything in between. So in alphabetical order, including some more recent titles, let's begin with Animal Well, a game which, on paper, doesn't seem like the smartest idea, taking the very popular Metroidvania genre and removing conventional combat from it. Yes, this is an exploration-focused title where you do get access to tools like a yo-yo, bubble wand, and frisbee, which can be used in so many clever ways. And if you, like me, consider exploration and discovery to be the #1 thing in games for you, this is the title to get. Joker Poker Balatro should really come with some sort of warning label, since if it gets its hooks into you, be prepared to lose hours and hours of your life to this game, where it takes the relatively simple concept of playing poker hands and twists it in a devilish kind of way. Since you are playing for score and have special cards and modifiers to increase that, with the variety and possible combinations of special Joker cards being central to it all, and is one of the best games of 2024. No list of top-tier pixel art games would be complete without mentioning Blasphemous, a grimdark Metroidvania that shows what pixel art can do, drawing upon the Catholic faith and the Crusades as inspiration for their nightmarish world. The grotesque enemy designs and brutality of the execution animations are a sight to behold, and while there is a sequel, I do slightly prefer the original since there is more variety, although both games are great. Perhaps the best precision platformer available on the market right now is Celeste, a game that has captured the hearts of millions, and while the pixel art leans more towards the minimalist end of things, there are still some sections exploding in colour that are just a sight to behold. The various mechanics like climbing and stamina, double jump and more provide plenty of challenge, compounded with optional challenges like the strawberries to get and the B and C side levels. The story will tug at your heartstrings as well, with the whole climbing a mountain just to overcome it being something that I'm sure you can identify with as well. One of my favorite recent indie JRPGs is Chained Echoes, a shining example of how awesome pixel art is since it just looks fantastic. This game combines nostalgic 16-bit style graphics with some pretty modern feeling and fluid turn-based combat, which is not a drag to play, hitting upon genre tropes like an airship, familiar feeling character classes and attacks, the classic fantasy world with political turmoil and more, not to mention mechs as well, and was one of my favorite games of 2022. A recent release of interest is Core Keeper, a sandbox crafting title from the classic 3/4 view camera angle, nailing the tried and tested gameplay loop of gathering resources, using that for upgrades to your base and equipment so that you can venture even further out to get better resources and so on. This is enhanced by multiplayer support, and despite being largely set in underground subterranean environments, it can look quite pretty due to how they use lighting in this game, and was a hit in early access but has become an unstoppable train post 1.0. Another fan-favorite title is CrossCode, an engaging 16-bit action RPG that seamlessly blends real-time combat with challenging environmental puzzles, with an unexpected emphasis on the latter to the annoyance of some people. It is set in an MMO known as Crossworlds, so you're controlling a player avatar and are interacting with other in-game players, with the variety of areas and biomes to explore being quite impressive. Our heroine is also a Sparrowmancer, a class in the MMO which is not that popular since it is more balanced as compared to being overpowered, which puts her in a unique position to start off the game. Despite the pixel art look, do not be fooled, since the base game has 35 hours of content, which is a lot, not to mention DLC, side objectives and more, and is a certified indie game legend at this point. And if you do want more CrossCode, look out for their next release, Alabaster Dawn, which looks similar. One of the best roguelite platformers is Dead Cells, where it is worth mentioning that the way that this game achieves its art style is first rendering a 3D model and then squishing it down to pixel art, so maybe it lacks the purity of hand-drawn pixel art, but is a great look and an awesome game. There are so many weapons, blueprints and upgrades in this game, being the first title to use the term Roguevania, since certain abilities allow you to take a different route through the game, which provides variety, enhanced by the multiple free updates and DLC that they released, including this one with Castlevania. And while updates for this game have officially ended, it is still an awesome title worth a play. Hey, what can I say? I love my roguelites, which is why Enter the Gungeon is of note, a heart-pounding bullet hell shooter that challenges your reflexes and makes you think on your feet. The appeal of this game is the literal hundreds of different guns available, including a gun which shoots out other guns, as well as the variety of gun puns and enemy designs, from fighting a drag gun to the Ammo-Conda bullet-shaped enemies and more. Each chaotic firefight is a visual spectacle, and true to the developer's name, you can dodge roll and jump over projectiles in this game, with the goal of each character being to get the gun that can kill the past for personal reasons, with there being a bunch of content in this game as well. A classic must-play title is Hotline Miami from 2012, a frenetic, violent, top-down action game that has you murdering rooms of enemies. You wear different masks, which grant you special abilities, and wield a variety of weapons and your own quick reflexes, which are needed to complete the level, having a die and instant reset gameplay loop which keeps the action going. And the influence of this game can be felt in the indie games after this as well. The 1980s Miami setting is done beautifully with the neon-soaked pixel art, and while not the most detailed or high-bit, absolutely works for this game. Another one of my favourite indie games of all time is Into the Breach, a roguelite turn-based strategy game where you command powerful mechs to defend cities from colossal monsters. The game's unique mechanic allows you to see enemy moves in advance, so you can plan your moves accordingly, choosing which target to prioritize, and can even push or pull them out of position to cause them to miss or to hit each other. The isometric pixel art here is one of the best, reminiscent of classic tactical games, with the relatively small 8x8 grid providing a surprising amount of tactical depth. Remember when I said that Hotline Miami has an outsized influence on indie games? A game that might have some lineage back to that is Katana Zero, a thrilling action platformer that combines lightning-fast swordplay and a time manipulation mechanic, having that die and instant reset gameplay loop. You can slow down time to dodge attacks and deflect bullets, with precise timing and execution of the brutal attacks being critical in this game. This is cyberpunk-ish, which you can see in the neon hues, and they do a spectacular job with the use of lighting as well. While the story aspect can be a little confusing, the action is where it's at, and this is one of the best. Speaking of pixel art, how about a groundbreaking game where every pixel is simulated, where Noita offers unprecedented levels of environmental interaction. You can manipulate the world in complex ways, such as igniting explosive gas or freezing water, as you craft custom spells to battle enemies and explore a procedurally generated world. The game's pixel art style isn't just aesthetic, since you need to be acutely aware of everything going on around you, or you will die in this visually dynamic and unpredictable game world. I have not gotten to this point in the game myself, but according to YouTube videos, and minor spoilers here, skip to the next section if you don't want to hear this, there is an extensive post-game section of parallel worlds and more to explore, which is pretty mind-blowing to me, so plenty to dig into with this game. Another fan-favourite title is Pizza Tower from 2023, one that takes inspiration from the Wario Land platformers that Nintendo doesn't make anymore, so once again, indie developers to the rescue. This is an over-the-top, fast-paced platformer that has you racing through the levels at breakneck speed, having to gain enough momentum to bust through obstacles to get to the end of the level, only to then have to hit the button and do the entire thing in reverse. As such, this is a masterclass in level design, with the pixel art being rather cartoonish and exaggerated, although I wouldn't exactly consider it to be pretty, but this has quickly become one of the most popular indie games of all time. A game which I believe benefited greatly from a YouTube video explaining its ecosystem is Rain World, a survival platformer title in which you play as a slug cat struggling to survive in a hostile, unforgiving world. You must find food, evade predators, and navigate through treacherous environments with over 1,600 handcrafted rooms to explore. The game's pixel art style is hauntingly beautiful, of an almost apocalyptic kind of environment where the living, breathing ecosystem of creatures both fascinates and terrifies at the same time. Fair warning though, this can be a little obtuse and might take a while for this to click, but if you push through, I think you'll find something special here. They also released the Downpour DLC with new slug cats to play as, and has another DLC titled The Watcher due in 2025, but the base game alone is worth it, so give it a go. When talking about iconic indie game characters, Shovel Knight immediately comes to mind, since the Blue Burrower is as close as you can get to an indie icon, with crossovers and appearances in so many other games, including Smash Brothers, so that's a feat in itself. This game was the gift that kept on giving, since the base game, retroactively named Shovel of Hope, was a substantial Mega Man-like experience, and then the developers released Plague of Shadows, Spectre of Torment, King of Cards, and the PvP-focused Shovel Knight Showdown, all for free to buyers of the original, later compiled into the Treasure Trove, which is one of the best value for money propositions in indie games. Each knight is unique and plays differently, with every level of each of their own campaigns being tailored to their abilities, also nailing that 8-bit inspired look, and is a no-brainer pick. Another release from 2024 is Songs of Conquest, a game that fans of Heroes of Might and Magic will appreciate, but more generally, if you like good strategy titles, this is one to check out. The basics of this game involve kingdom management and overworld exploration, where your hero avatar leads an army of units which can be used in turn-based combat on the grid. The magic system in this game is where the developers differentiated themselves, since in order to use magic, you first need essence, the primary source of which are your troops, so army composition matters a whole lot in this game. I absolutely love the pixel art in this game, being the definition of modern high-bit pixel art, since with modern technology, pixel art games can look this good while doing things that older platforms were incapable of, such as the tricks they use with the camera, resulting in a classic feeling title, but one which has new ideas of its own. After the 1.0 release out of early access, the developers have confirmed that there will be additional content for the game, including new playable factions, so I cannot wait to see how this shapes up. A game that could very well be my number one indie game of all time is Stardew Valley, a beloved farm simulation RPG that took the core idea of games like Harvest Moon and added little flourishes and flair to it, with modern conveniences since it was originally made for PC. You are cultivating crops, raising animals, and building relationships with villagers, while also mining, fishing, and crafting to gather various items and resources to develop the farm and town. I love the pixel art look of this game since it just looks so charming, and the music is excellent as well, and was, at least initially, the work of solo developer Eric Barone, which is extra impressive. Speaking of iconic indie games, I believe Terraria is right up there, if not the most successful indie game of all time, having sold an astounding 58.7 million copies as of July 2024, with the developers teasing something for 60 million copies as of recording. This is a 2D sandbox crafting game, which has been said to be 2D Minecraft, not a bad statement depending on how you take it, since Minecraft and its success is awesome, So for them to capture it into a side-scroller is great, with the same crafting gameplay loop that we have come to know and love. Critically, digging deeper underground is key to this game, where you can eventually create things like elevators to move around more quickly, and has challenging boss fights as well. You are free to craft and build anything you want, where I have seen some stunning home bases in this game, and like Stardew Valley and many of the other games on this list, it is truly a labour of love, since the developers keep adding more content all for free, rather than nickel and diming you like some bigger companies. Of course, another indie classic that needs to be played is The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, an action roguelite in which you play as a naked little boy who escapes to the basement after supposed words from God compels his mother to kill him. It draws upon parts of the upbringing of creator Edmund Macmillan and might strike a chord with some players, but theme aside, this is a solid action roguelite with the variety of game-altering upgrades and secrets being key here. Through the many years of updates and DLC, this has provided so much variety that YouTuber and streamer Northern Lion has played this game on and off for more than a decade, with literally more than 2,000 videos on this game alone, so how's that for insane? While the pixel art isn't completely necessary here, it looks good, where I found that the best way to play this is to get onto the Steam Workshop and get the mod that actually explains what every item does, rather than having to look it up on the wiki on a second screen while playing, at least until you get your footing and have some idea of what the items do. Another gorgeous pixel art title is Touhou Lunar Nights, a search action title that is similar to a Metroidvania but a little bit more linear in structure. You play as the maid Sakuya as she explores the realm with the power to manipulate time like Dio, and has a knack for throwing knives. Being a Touhou game, it does have some inspiration from its bullet hell counterparts, where bosses in particular do fill the screen with projectiles, but there is a graze system here where you get rewarded the closer you get to being hit without actually coming into contact. It is on the shorter side as well, but it is a pretty dense, compact gaming experience that I would recommend. The newest release on this list is UFO 50, a game collection of 50, yes, 50 games, which are not mini-games, but rather full games in themselves, which is quite the impressive amount of work. In universe, these games are the work of UFO Soft, a video game developer from the 1980s, making games for this fictional 8-bit console, with a color palette and pixel art to match, where the sheer variety of gameplay experiences here is worth every penny, and it helps that even at full price, this is $25, so that's 50 cents a game for potentially hours and hours of fun. There's Metroidvania, Tactics, Platformer, RPG, JRPG, idle game, sports games, and so much more, with a meta-narrative wrapping around the entire thing as well, and it's a must-get for any indie game fan. Another one of the all-time great indie games is Undertale, a groundbreaking RPG that subverts traditional genre expectations of the turn-based Japanese-style RPG. This game features unique battle mechanics that blend bullet hell style dodging in combat, and has quite the inspiring story as well, with meta elements to the narrative that breaks the fourth wall. The pixel art is deceptively simple and is not the most beautiful, since for the most part these are 1-bit black and white designs, but yet some of the characters and even enemies are able to convey so much personality. The Undertale fandom is one of the most fanatical, to the point of creating their own spin-off universes, and might be so extreme to the point of being off-putting. So if you have no knowledge of that, I would say do not open Pandora's box, but instead just play the game for yourself. Ever so often, there are indie games which create genres of their own, of games which are so good and popular that it spawned a whole bunch of clones trying to capture a small slice of that market, and such is the case of Vampire Survivors, a bullet heaven roguelite where you are the bullet hell and spew out tons and tons of projectiles, and is condensed dopamine in video game form. What I want to highlight, however, is that despite the success, the developer has continued to release updates and DLC, including crossovers with Among Us, Contra, and not Castlevania, which is pretty funny, as well as free updates like Dark Castle, Laboratory, Space, and more. So if you have not checked in on this game in a while, or have simply written it off, there's more to this game than meets the eye. The wuxia, or Chinese martial arts themed games, have traditionally been super popular in China, but never quite broke out of that market, with the first game to hit a wider audience being Wandering Sword, a pixel art RPG that gives you the option of either real-time or turn-based combat. It's a classic hero's journey kind of story about a young swordsman on his climb to the top of the pugilistic world, with a fantastic art style that reminds me of Octopath Traveler. Taking a page out of the book of other indie games, they have announced their update roadmap, with the free Southern Chronicles storyline DLC already released and more to come, and it's a huge, expensive RPG that will easily last you more than 30 hours, where out of the games in this list, this title still seems to be relatively underrated, so do give this a go. I've made a PDF with links to all of these gorgeous games, so if interested, get it via the link in the description below. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.